Scotland forever!
Not long after the fall of Berwick, the Scots launched the largest raid into England yet. In early May 1318, they struck south in two parties, targeting Yorkshire. They bypassed Durham, which had already bought immunity. The western group crossed the River Tees into Yorkshire at Barbour Castle, while the eastern group entered the shrine at Yarm, again sacking Hartlepool and the surrounding areas, and the western group struck Richmond. Then raid parties were sent into Wensleydale, moving up to the Ripon. There, the population crowded in the ministry. The townspeople negotiated immunity by promising to pay 1,000 marks. The eastern group of Scots galloped down the Vale of York, heading for North Alderton, which was ravaged and burned. They then pushed south towards Barbour Bridge, taking corn from the king's granaries and burning the town down. Both parties reunited at Knaresborough. All these names are fucking stupid, man. I'm sick. I've been doing this for the past fucking 2 hours, and it's just a pain in the fucking arse. Can you name your town something normal? Okay, I'm done crashing now. I'm going to get back to the fucking story. They also wreaked havoc at Knaresborough. The Lanarkos Chronicle reports that only 20 houses were left standing after the Scots set fire to the town. They're also reported to have camped in the parish Panal, which they also burned. They burnt fucking everything, it sounds like. Once in the west, they raided Preston and reached the coast. Lancaster was next, and a lot of damage was done. And like always, the Scots went back to Scotland after a good day's looting. Or a good few weeks. It is around this time that James had also risen to the highest rank possible. A rider was added to the regency plan. If Randolph died, James, Lord of Douglas, would assume the regency. This was merely an honour and a sign of respect than a proper thing, but technically he was an heir to Scotland. The Scots made their way back into England for another raid by the West March, directly south of the besiegers at Berwick. The rumour spread that the Scots were planning to capture England's Queen, Isabella, who was based at York with the English administration. James and Randolph left a trail of destruction in the Vale of York, leading to North Alderton. A spy then revealed himself to Archbishop Myton of York and confessed that the Scots were coming to kidnap the Queen. He also said he could lead the townsfolk to where the Scots were lying in wait for safety. The Queen of England was removed to Nottingham. A call of arms came out of York, demanding that all capable men should march out on Myton-on-Swale and teach the Scots a lesson. Most of the able-bodied fighting men from the area were already at Berwick with their king. So Archbishop Myton gathered a teeming army of churchmen, peasants and townsfolk, average European army. English chronicles claim that they were around 20,000 in number. These are probably an exaggeration. On the 12th of September, this army marched to battle. James and Randolph and their men were camped out in a field on the west bank of the River Swale. Near its proximity to the River Archbishop Myton, with a silver crucifix held aloft as a standard, approached with his army, many churchmen to the fore, with choir boys singing. I'm not going to make a joke. The army came to the village of Myton and crossed the river. The Scots, seeing them approach, set 3 piles of damp hay on fire. The English marched through the smoke, only to find the Scots before them in battle order. These men were veterans, and many years of fighting alongside Bruce were veterans of Bannockburn, and had spent the last few years raiding Northern England, and many had probably fought in Ireland too. At a signal, the Scots let out a battle cry and charged at the English, and the English instantly realised their mistakes and began to retreat. The Scots, not liking this tactic of running away, charged the English down. The English ran through the smoke to the bridge to escape over the river, only to find some of the Scottish cavalry had flanked them and had secured the bridgehead, which was their only escape. The battle quickly turned into a mass slaughter, and many of the English leapt into the Swale to try and get away from the mayhem. The Swale is a deep, sluggish river, and encumbered in armour or clerical robes, many drowned, and the English chronicles say that 4,000 died, and that possibly more men drowned in the murky waters than were cut down by the Scottish. The Mayor of York was also in the battle and he had died, and many of the notable people were taken or captured. With a sense of irony, the Scots called this the chapter of Myton, due to the mass amount of clergy being there. The chapter of, Myton, is known locally as the White Battle. Again, reference to the the clergy. The news of the battle had spread north. Many English soldiers began to desert the siege of Berwick, which was going on recently, anxious to return home and defend their lands. The southern English, including Lancaster, saw no choice but to withdraw, leaving the rest of the army with no option but to abandon the siege and turn south. With the English retreating, Berwick was relieved from the English, who I apologise, I forgot to mention they were being besieged. I'm really sorry. my fault, guys. Anyway, King Edward II attempted to block the Scots who were escaping, the raid through Northumberland in the east, but this was useless because the Scots had just crossed the west instead, and Edward just couldn't stop them.
That's my job. That's my job. That's my job.